I'm Melanie. Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning family of visionaries, thank you for your continuous love and support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please feel at home. Have you had an opportunity to subscribe to the channel yet? If not, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. I always love listening to African leaders share their thoughts and ideas on how change will make an impact in Africa. And when I listened to the president of Kenya speak, I thought to myself, oh, Wode Maya's hard work is finally coming to fruition. I love it. In this particular speech, the president of Kenya was talking about getting rid of visas for Africans to travel from country to country without a visa. And this is something that Wode Maya and many other African content creators were talking about. And I kept thinking to myself, oh, finally they're listening to Wode Maya's hard work, because he's been advocating for this ever since I started watching him.
My actual first political orientation was CPP. Wow. Yeah, and so I joined NDC when it was formed.
Nkrumah talked about borderless Africa. Yeah. I've been a victim. I just had a brawl at the Togo-Ghana border just because I refused to pay bribe. Yeah. I mean, as a young African trying to travel within Africa, it's extremely difficult to travel within Africa. I mean, you're once a president. You don't think Africa needs a border? We should be a borderless continent, just like Europe. I had a visa for Germany. I was in Austria. I was in Netherlands. No one asked me anything. But on the continent of Africa, there's no free movement of people and goods. I mean, I will want to ask you, because I'm so much advocate for this. And when you come to power, what are you going to do to change that?
Well, I was president of Ghana, and so I was a member of the AU, Authority of African Heads of States. We prepared the protocol for visa-free travel in Africa. We're going to pass it in Kigali. At the last minute, there were objections from, I remember South Africa, but there were 2 or 3 countries that objected and said we should delay it until much later. Now, you know what I did? I came back to Ghana and I said, well, if the other countries won't pass it, we'll pass it in Ghana. And so I allowed visa-free travel for all African passports. You can apply for your visa at the airport. And people started taking advantage of it. Today, if you have an African passport, you can travel to Accra and apply for the visa when you get to Accra. And it hasn't changed Ghana in any way. Nothing extraordinary has happened. So I don't see why we cannot start with visa-free travel. In ECOWAS, we have it. ECOWAS, if you fly into Nigeria, you don't need a visa. I agree with you that the borders and the parochial things that the people do there it's not sanctioned. I mean, these are corrupt individuals who try to take advantage of a situation. Otherwise, in ECOWAS, we should be able to travel to and from each other's countries without paying anything, I mean, the passport control or whatever control is just for record purposes and to capture the statistics of how people go back and forth. But otherwise, they're not supposed to pay anything. And I do think that we should sanction people like that. You should have reported whoever it was.
I did. I even made videos about it, but nothing happened.
I see.
And it's not just me, because I met thousands of people at the border who did not have the 2,000 francs just to cross to Togo, so they were stuck at the border. And the same thing happens from...
Was it on the Ghana side?
On the Togo side. So I finished...
You have to pay 2,000
So it's everywhere. If the Togolese are coming to Ghana, they have to pay. If Ghanaians are going to Togo, they have to pay. It's something that exists at our borders.
Is it a single stop border crossing point? Because we built, before I left office, I know we built a border crossing point where both the Togolese and Ghanaian immigration and customs were supposed to do a one-stop check.
It's not like that.
You're talking of Aflao?
Aflao, yeah. It's not like that.
Aflao, you come to the Togolese side, then you cross over, come to the Ghanaian side.
Exactly. Am I speaking with the consulate or the embassy of Congo in Ghana?
Yeah, Congo in Ghana, yes. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you. So I wanted to find out how much does a visa fees cost to go to Congo?
$250 for 3 months.
And what about multiple entry?
$300.
Multiple entry is $300.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one is the $400? Because I'm saving $400 on the internet.
The $400 for 6 months. Now one goes with the multiple years.
Oh, okay. But it's time to promote DRC. But I think the visa is extremely expensive.
It's extremely expensive. One person apparent visa fee just to visit Congo is 250 USD. It's so expensive, and this is going to be the most expensive visa we have ever acquired. And I think they should do something about it. And when we get there, we should ask them the reason why it has to be 250, because there is nowhere that we have ever visited that we've paid an amount even up to $200.
And it's not just $250. It ranges from $250 to $400, of which I think is really ridiculous, man. It's really ridiculous. I mean, if you want Africans to travel within Africa, or if you even want to attract tourism into Congo, why must you charge that outrageous amount? If that is the case, you're actually killing tourism. You know, Congo has a bad name out there, and I think it's about time you open up so that people will come to Congo and experience the real beauty of Congo, so that they will be telling the beautiful stories about Congo. I mean, we will not give up. We're still gonna spend the money. So we're currently here at DRC. You can see the flag waving so high, and let's just go and pay the $250. And this is why I always say that whenever we come to your country, be nice to us, man. And some of the border immigration officers are so rude to the extent that when you arrive, sometimes people don't expect an African to travel within Africa. I mean, what has been one of your worst experiences at the border, man?
At the border, it's the way Africans treat their fellow Africans. It's so bad to the extent that I don't know what this green passport has done to some of the people in Africa, or some of the immigration officers in Africa. The moment they see this green passport,
You are a suspect.
You are a suspect.
Because I think
They consider you to be a criminal, which is not supposed to be so, because we are all Africans. When I get there, you ask me so many questions to the extent that sometimes you even want to see our bank account.
I'm telling you.
How can you ask someone that you want to see the person's bank
I remember there was a country that I went to that they told me I should go and check my bank account and for them to see how much money I have in the account before they can allow me to enter the country. In Africa, man.
It's not fair.
We need an African passport to allow Africans to move from one country to another. It's really crazy. So this is the Congo embassy, and we're gonna apply. We cannot put. But one thing that I normally say whenever I meet African leaders like yourself, I'm like, it's been over 60 years since we had our independence. It's over 60 years since we had our freedom. But I mean, when you travel within Africa, it's a major challenge. You don't think it's about time Africans start traveling within Africa freely, like the way probably you landed in Amsterdam and then they checked you in Amsterdam and you got to Berlin without no one checking in here. You don't think we need something like that in Africa?
We do have in the SADC region, for example. Actually, the democracy came later. Other countries might have seen 60 years. We not yet 30 years as a country in South Africa. But when you look at freedom of movement within the SADC region, and what Africa has been able to do is to segregate within the regions. So you have more better movement within the region, but not fully in terms of the entirety of the continent. That's why part of the work that we're doing in the continent around Agenda 2063 and the AFCTC. So trading amongst African countries to improve, and that would enable movement of goods and people within the continent. And that's, I do believe that it's not going to be easy, but it will move. Remember, in terms of the conversations, even for example, you'd have some of the people would feel when conversations such as de-dollarization comes in, they see it as almost like an attack to the West, not seeing it as Africans as well trying to unite within themselves and finding common denominators. You can never have movement of people when your own currencies are not united. So it's the same thing. You come to the European countries, there is a euro. which makes it easier to trade within European countries, and it unifies them. So movement of goods and people would have to go with the currencies, and the ability to be able to trade means that within your currencies you've got to be able to deal with it. When I go to Ghana, I find a different currency.
Exactly.
You come to South Africa, you find a different currency. You go to Nigeria, you find a different currency, and it makes it difficult in terms of those movement closing down and opening up of the borders. But the challenges as well. Sometimes we look at it in terms of security issues. You find that the insurgents of quite a number of things. You would have seen South Africa recently got grey listing. Grey listing as a result that you are starting to have a lot of people who are within the ISIS military coming in. And because most of the time, if you start talking about movement of people and removing the borders, you will see that that would be what is needed. But there is an inhibitor in the process. You allow for that movement, you have unwanted people, then you have some level of consequence in terms of your own economy being affected.
Now you're back on the continent, and I know that you travel a lot within Africa.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always want to speak about is free movement of Africans within Africa, free movement of goods within Africa. Do you also face the same challenges while traveling within Africa?
There's one example. I was in South Africa for many years, and then I had to go to Morocco every 2 weeks. You know how to get from South Africa to Morocco? You have to go to Dubai. You know this. Or you have to go to Paris. And then I'm like, these are two African countries. There's a history, but it's not just these two, right? I tried to go from Cote d'Ivoire to Nairobi. There's a direct flight, but it's not at the convenient time, so then you have to go to Addis Ababa. It's difficult. So then when you talk about difficulty of moving people, you can only imagine about difficulty of trade. We talk about intra-Africa trade, but it's easier to get goods from Ghana to Germany than from Ghana
To Ivory Coast.
The way the Kenyan president presented this, though, it was so powerful. He was leading by example, talking about how Kenya will not require a visa for Africans to visit, effective this end of this year. But also, he talked about how it will impact Africans across the world with entrepreneurship, business, and definitely in travel. There's so much that he spoke about in regards to ensuring that Africans saw the benefits of not having to have borders. For Africans to see each other as equal and able to collaborate with one another. He talked about different countries doing the same and how this will impact. He used the European Union as an example of how they don't require borders or tariffs, and that how Africans are the only ones that still do this. And they need to change that mindset to move forward, because he highlights in this speech all of the great things Africa has to offer, but yet they're hindering themselves by having these borders and visa requirements for Africans. As I listened, I was educated and engaged with the president's speech, but I kept thinking to myself, young Africans, such as Wode Maya and others that have been advocating for this, have made a change. And I'm back to that point. The youth are the future of Africa as well as the world. These young people don't think they have a say. They don't think they have an impact. But the work that they do on a regular basis, whether it's because they want to make an impact in this world or they just know it's the right thing to do, is actually impacting other generations. The president and others of elderly age are finally seeing they need to keep up with the youth. They need to see what's happening for the next generations, because it's that's going to make change in this world. And I want you to take a listen to the president's speech and tell me your thoughts.
This continent realize that having visa restrictions amongst ourselves is working against us. When people cannot travel, business people cannot travel, entrepreneurs cannot travel, we all become net losers. I am very happy that we are now moving in the direction of eliminating visas amongst ourselves. Let me say this. As Kenya, by the end of this year,
no African will be required to have a visa to come to Kenya. And I am very proud that the intra-trade within the East African community is already at 27% because we have taken the deliberate decision to remove unnecessary tariffs and visa regulations. I am also very happy.
What are your views on the fact that Africa should not have borders or visas required to travel, to work, to collaborate? I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Drop them in the comments and let's have a conversation. And I'm so pleased for Wode Maya that you can see, he's probably cheering in the sidelines, that Kenya is taking the initiative to make sure that you and other African content creators will be able to travel without visas. I'm so thrilled by this news and love to hear your thoughts and ideas. Please don't forget to hit that notification button, like and share, and we'll see you next time. Bye.